All right, good morning, everybody. I see Biscuits. I see Melissa, Patrick, and Steve. Good morning, y'all. Thanks for joining us this morning. Steve, to you, and a special thank you for getting back to me quickly on the on that video with Victor that I just shared in the Frame.io platform, which I'm very happy with so far. I think we're going to make good use of that for the East Atlanta video commercial production side. Thanks for joining us this morning. Guys, I just learned yesterday. I got a couple things I want to cover this morning. I'm going to start on an upbeat, go into some bullshit, and hopefully I can manage to swing this back around after we do a few, you'll notice the scoreboard is up there. Hopefully I can swing this back around to a positive note before the end of the show as well. So, positive note, my buddy Jason over at Awake Coffee is running for city council here in Rockdale County, here in Conyers. That's a big deal. That's a big positive note. Those seats have gone uncontested largely for a long time, and the nature of the corruption in that city council is such that where those seats have not gone technically or legally uncontested, where there's actually been somebody running against the incumbent, the corruption at that level and the entrenched nature of those local politicians who are just awful is such that it may as well have been uncontested. So it's really refreshing to see some new blood running. Hopefully we can do good work and get the turnout for Jason. I know a handful of you watching this morning will be able to vote in that particular election. That's coming up this November for the city council here in Conyers. So Steve says nothing is dirtier than local politics. Good God, I tell you what, that you may never have spoken truer words, my friend. Now, today is Firearms Friday. It's supposed to be light and fun and a little bit celebratory. But I do want to take a moment to address yesterday. I talked about how Biden's policies have gotten us to where we are, and what an absolute train wreck that guy is. Patrick says he's not seeing the chat. Patrick, you're not operating your phone correctly. Try harder. Be better. And then after I went on to talk about what an absolute train wreck the Biden administration is, well, we had 2 suicide bombers hit our troops in Kabul. The last count I saw was 12 Marines are dead. Joe Biden owns those deaths. He owns them in a big way. He was warned this is what would happen. Now, we've heard this shitbag Milley come out and say, oh, well, nobody could have predicted it would happen this quickly. And like I said yesterday, if by nobody you mean that not only could anybody have done it, but literally everybody who is actually informed on this matter has said, if you pull out of Afghanistan, this will be the result. Now, don't get me wrong. I want us out of Afghanistan. And there was, in fact, a way to do that without just handing the Taliban a national debt's worth of sophisticated, expensive, advanced military war equipment. Okay? But hey, they didn't get any AR-15s, so Joe's still good with his voters. Part of the point that I wanted to make yesterday, and I kind of got bogged down in the weeds on it, because you personally know people, who even after this debacle of administration will continue to vote Democrat without exception in perpetuity forever. Now, On the other side of that, and I'm going to have to do a whole nother show on this one, and that might be one for next week. We'll see. Which, real quick housekeeping, there will not be a show Monday morning. I will be otherwise occupied. So, but on the other side of the aisle, there are Democrats. There are people who voted for Biden. There are people who look at guys like me and they say, this guy's going to always vote Republican no matter what. They're wrong. You show me a solid libertarian candidate, something like that, that's got a chance of winning, and I'll support him. But their position that there are people on my side that are always going to vote Republican no matter what is true. So, like I was explaining to my dad yesterday, we talked about it briefly, and I pointed out on the show yesterday morning as well. You look at the past 20 years of politics, right? Under Obama, you got $4 a gallon gas. Under Biden, you got $4 a gallon gas. Under Trump, you got $1.50 gas. For your average voting American, right? Even some of you guys that are watching today, some of you guys watching today, you tune in, you hear me talk, and I go way deeper into the weeds than you ever need to go, than you ever really want to know, but you enjoy getting a little bit more of the deeper analytics, stuff like that. But for your average American voter, they are even those that are intelligent enough to understand the higher complexities and the deeper nuances, they're not actively engaged in studying and remaining currently informed on the very, very serious details of the topics of things like international politics, domestic policy, foreign policy. Like, the extent of their understanding of foreign policy is that if there's a trade problem, it's going to affect your wallet at home. For the average American, the average voting American, all you need to know is that the two Democrats on either side of the $1.50 a gallon gas Republican president gave us $4 a gallon gas. For the average voter, that's all you need to know. That's good enough. Right? Now, it helps that the $1.50 a gallon gas president was not the gun grab president. He was not the surrender president. He was not the let me actively fund terrorism with U.S. tax dollars president. Right? But good economy, my wages are higher and my costs are lower, versus any given Democrat, my wages are lower and my costs are higher. That's not complicated, right? That's the very basic math. And as I've said many, many times on this show, Democrats vote Democrat largely because they're bad at math and their votes are cheap. You can buy Democrat votes with a bounced check. I know. We've seen them do it. Now, Danny said something just a second ago, and it's already slipped out of the chat. What was? Oh, yeah. Danny asked if I've hooked him up with Larry and Alex, referring to Jason. I haven't, because I just talked to him yesterday. So I'm going to talk to Larry and Alex later today. And actually, Danny, I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm going to go ahead and talk to Larry and Alex today and suggest that we invite Jason to come and be our guest speaker. This upcoming Thursday will be, I believe this upcoming Thursday is, Steve says I owe myself the top comment. I'll take it. What did I say that was that smart, Steve? Because I'm pretty fucking smart. But yeah, Danny, I'll talk to Alex and Larry, and maybe we can have Jason as our guest speaker this upcoming Thursday. That'd be fantastic. It'd have to either be this Thursday or the following first Thursday, because we're running out of Thursdays before the election itself. So, to tie all that back together, the difference between all those Democrats that are going to continue to vote blue no matter who, and all those Republicans. No, Alex, not that, Jason. I'll get back to you. All those shitburgers that are going to continue to vote blue no matter who, versus the Republicans who are going to continue to vote red until they're dead. The blue no matter who guys voted for this very predictable outcome. Right? Those of us who vote Republican, until Trump, by a wide majority, have been voting for somebody to hold the seat and keep it away from a Democrat to slow the sons of bitches down. Right? The only thing that we have been able to count on a Republican for in living memory is to fuck up slower than the Democrats do. See, because the Democrats, their intent is to destroy this country. The Republicans just sit there and don't do anything. But don't do nothing when you're talking about a government employee. I would rather none of them do anything than any of them do most of what they do currently. Frankly, I would abolish the majority of the government given half a chance. So, when you look at soldiers being killed in Afghanistan by suicide bombers in the middle of the greatest foreign policy error in world history, right? The most predictable, obvious, a failure so grievously, obviously predictable that you would have to be insane if you believe that it was not done with the intent and explicit purpose of ceding territory to the enemy for the express outcome of causing harm to the United States of America with full intent and full malice of forethought. You're lying to yourself, or you're letting yourself be lied to. So, let's get into some Firearms Friday. And wow, I'm deeper into the show than I wanted to be before I started doing articles. And the first article is not actually, the first article's going to set up, let me just bring up the first article. Okay. Australia's political madness over COVID could infect the U.S. One could argue it already has. Is Australia teeming with COVID? No. Is the death toll soaring astronomically? No. None of that is happening. Okay, this article is from a few months ago, right? But they're talking about the lockdowns, and if you guys have been paying attention to the news, even just as recently as last week, or I'm sorry, earlier this week, they've redoubled and extended lockdowns. They're arresting people. They are arresting people over failure to mask or to get vaccinated in Australia. Mandates, lockdowns. Guys, absolute psychopathy. There is one reason and one reason only that it has not gone that far in this country. It is not that our U.S. Constitution restrains our government from overreaching and usurping more power than we have granted it through the Constitution. Remember, the U.S. Constitution enumerates specific powers to the federal government, and the 10th Amendment and the 8th Amendment, well, excuse me, the 10th Amendment reserves all powers not explicitly ceded to the federal government. It reserves those powers to the state governments, lower municipalities, and the people there beneath. In the United States, as per our Constitution, at no level of government, city, town, state, municipality, county, federal, at no level of government does the government or any agent thereof have any authority that has not been explicitly ceded to the government by the people through the ballot box and the legislature. Now, there are many authorities that the government has managed to usurp through graft and falsehood, through fraud, via the mechanism of the legislature. But that's another matter. The fact is, if that power has not been explicitly ceded to the government by the people, then that authority is not one retained by the government or its agents. Right? Somebody asked me earlier, I forgot. Well, somebody asked me earlier to talk about, I know who it was. It was Georgia Witt left a comment on yesterday's video that said, it's funny that state troopers aren't allowed to enforce certain laws, but we're expecting the waitress over at IHOP to enforce CDC policy. And Dave, there's no E in my name. I come from the white soldier Lowrys, not the black preacher Lowrys. When you see the E in the name, that's the black preacher Lowrys from Georgia. Two completely different families, my brother. We do a lot more war fighting and a lot less preaching. Although I understand that what I'm doing now is a bit on the pulpit. So maybe I should pick up a can of shoe polish and an extra E for my last name. Should be entertaining. Anyhow, so you look at Australia, lockdowns, mandates, an absolute usurpation of authority by their government. There's one reason and one reason only that's not happening here. Not because the federal government is restrained in its authority by our Constitution. Not because the law prevents the government from doing dangerous things. No. It is the Second Amendment. It is the fact that we have more guns than people in this country, and those guns are held in large part by people who know how to use them. Those guns are held in large part by people who insist that their government remain as limited and restrained as possible. And I'm not telling secrets, I'm not speaking out of church when I say that our government, as currently constituted, needs to be limited and restrained dramatically. Right, I'm going to have a hard time voting for any candidate whose platform does not include the statement, I will reduce the current government by 50%. You get up on a platform and say that out loud and show me a plan to pursue that objective, buddy, I'm in. Buddy, I will knock on every door in America for you. Bring it on. So, yeah, and Steve says arm Australians. While we're at it, arm Cubans. And you know what? Arm the teachers. So you look at Australia. Australia is getting consumed by its overreaching government. They will be a failed state within the decade because of shit like this. They're going to put all their businesses under to such an extent that their national revenue from tax collection will dip dramatically. The result will be that they'll be forced to increase taxes in order to cover the costs of their state welfare programs and state retirement programs. And the result of that will be that the cost of goods and services and commodities will rise so much that more businesses will go under. And that just begins a vicious cycle of inflation and increased taxation. And eventually the Australian dollar is being pushed around in wheelbarrows so that you can take 1 billion Aussies to buy a loaf of bread. And all of a sudden you're Weimar. Good luck. And hey, we're not far behind right now, guys. We're not. So let's try to get back into the flow and have a little fun, get some chuckles out of bad guys getting shot for doing bad things. I love it when bad guys go down for the right reasons. Oh. Oklahoma police investigating after alleged burglar shot by homeowner. Just says shot by, so we don't have a score yet. We'll see what happens there. Lawton, Oklahoma. K4. I'm not sure what that stands for. Maybe that's a radio station. Authorities in Lawton are investigating a shooting involving a homeowner and an alleged burglar. Here, let me zoom that in a little bit. See if we can't see it a little better. I'll move that up a bit. There we go. That should be better. How do you like that? That's better, isn't it? Okay, so on Tuesday, officers with the Lawton Police Department were called to a home in the 3300 block of Northwest Cache Road following an attempted burglary. A witness says that a homeowner heard someone breaking into a home through the back door. After yelling at the burglar to leave, officials say the homeowner was shot. The alleged burglar, after yelling at the burglar to leave, officials say the homeowner shot the alleged burglar after he entered the house. The alleged burglar is currently recovering. Oh, sad. Oh. Back to the range, sweetheart. Oh, try harder next time. Oh, that looks like that's all of the story. Okay. Center mass. 3 rounds. Let that rise carry up to the eyes. Center mass. 3 trigger squeezes. Rise to the eyes. Mozambique. Nice and clean. No hospital bill. No aggravated assault charge. It's not hard. That's for you, Rod. So, who do we have next? Gun owner shoots man who... let me move my own big head out of the way. Gun owner shoots man who pulled gun on him during fight. Houston. Is it Houston or Houston? Because I think it's Houston, Texas. It's Houston, Georgia, but we spell it the same. This looks like, well, there's a star in the 2, so I'll guess it's Texas. A man is in critical condition. After he threatened a gun owner with a gun during an argument Saturday afternoon, according to the Houston Police Department. Houston police said the shooting was reported at a place of business where the gun owner worked in the 8500 block of West Montgomery Road around 1. Police said the 27-year-old man walked into the business and asked associates about the 59-year-old man's whereabouts. Police said the 59-year-old man was outside on a work break. When he and the 27-year-old got into an argument, police said the 27-year-old pulled out a gun during the fight. Then the 59... Good God. Okay, then the old guy told the investigators that he pulled out a gun and shot the man in self-defense, according to police. The man who was shot crashed his vehicle in an attempt to flee, but then fled the scene on foot. Officers later found him in the area, and paramedics took him to a nearby hospital. The gun owner left the scene of the shooting, but later returned to answer officers' questions and give a statement. No charges have been filed, and that's a BRM. Ooh, not a good week. Hearts and minds, baby. Hearts and minds. You know what, Steve? I got you a spare. There you go. Let's, because, yeah, I'm a big fan of the hearts and minds philosophy. No. Family requests surveillance video be released after man shot killed during road rage incident. Spartansburg, South Carolina. Good grief. I'm going to run out of Zoom to zoom into, guys. Spartansburg surveillance video showing a shooting ruled as self-defense will not be released to the public after the family of the man killed asked that it be kept private. The family of Travis Draper and Spartanburg County Councilman Monier Abusoft got to see the surveillance video. The sheriff's office said that Abusoft agreed that the other driver was justified in the shooting, but said that he should have notified law enforcement earlier of his involvement in the shooting. Sheriff Chuck Wright says he is working with Rep. Travis Moore on legislation that would require people to report to law enforcement if they have been involved in a shooting within a reasonable amount of time. You know what? Screw you guys. Let's just pile on another law. Travis Antonio Draper, 41 of Pasolé, was found dead August 5th in his car on Highway 295, according to the coroner. WYFF4.com wants to know my location. That's a great big shit up your nose. On Friday, Wright outlined the events that led to his death. Wright said just after 6, Draper was on his way to work on Highway 295 and stopped at a red light. It was then that Draper and another driver had a verbal altercation about the driver being too close to Draper's vehicle, Wright said. Wright said the men continued driving down Highway 295 and the verbal altercation continued. So they're just driving down the road shouting back and forth at each other? Okay. Wright said both men began to increase their speed and drive aggressively while passing other vehicles along the road. This time, surveillance video shows Draper crashing the other vehicle through an intersection and almost hitting a vehicle not involved. Draper then pulled alongside the other driver and pointed a gun at him, according to Wright. Wright said the other driver pulled his gun and fired one shot at Draper. Wright said Draper was hit under his armpit and died at the scene. According to Wright, the other driver left the area and went to work. Oh. Hey man, it's Coffee Hut. Yeah, anything interesting happened on the way to work? I shot somebody. Oh, cool. You want to pass me that screwdriver? Yeah, no problem. No problem. Oh, the couple reached out to an attorney, and an attorney reached out to the sheriff's office, Wright said. Wright said after an investigation by the sheriff's office and the solicitor, it was determined that the other driver did not break the law and shot Draper in self-defense. I guess we get to call that a DRT. Kind of sounds like we got a couple of shitheads getting involved in... Patrick accuses me of reading a too high a percentage of BRMs. No, Patrick, you know what? Here's the problem. I've noticed the number of BRMs increasing rapidly over the last several months, and they seem to be increasing rapidly with, in parallel and sequence with, the rising cost of ammunition. I'll let you draw conclusions on that particular causation versus correlation. And yeah, Alex says 2 young men allowing their egos to control their common sense. Alex, since you're on the show, rather than sending you a text message, since you're watching right now, it's Jason over at Wake is going to run for city council. So hit me up later, or I'll try to call or text you after the show. If we don't already have a speaker for this Thursday, he's probably a good one. So I'll touch base with you in a half hour or so about that. Falls in line with the rise in first-time gun owners too. That's a good point, Steve. You're right. There has also been a dramatic rise this year in the number of first-time gun owners. Alex is watching. I went and sat with Alex and Larry at a gun show end of December, early January. We're trying to, we're sitting there at the GOP table trying to get some more people registered to vote. Interesting correlation. It seems like a lot of gun owners are also already registered to vote. Like the people that are going to the gun shows, either they lie or just a very high density of that particular population are registered voters, which makes sense. But what I saw a lot of, and I talked to a lot of people while we were there, a lot of young black men buying their first gun. And these guys were like, they were buying, 2 or 3 guns. I saw a lot of them that were like, well, I need a main battle rifle, a sidearm, and a breaching shotgun, and $5,000 worth of ammunition to feed the 3 of them. And I'm just standing there like, love for you, brother. I got all the love in the world for you, brother. But these are all first-time gun owners. And, guys, I am over the moon to see Americans doing what they should do. Gun ownership is not... Okay, we've talked a bit in the past about rights and responsibilities. Jordan Peterson likes to say, I'm so tired of hearing people talk about their rights. Why don't you talk about the responsibilities? And often you'll hear people talk about the correlation between rights and responsibilities. Let me clear something up for you as far as carrying a firearm. And some of you are going to want to, well, probably not any of you, but some people would call me a misogynist for this. And I will say quite clearly and unreservedly that those people are stupid. If you are a man, it is not only your natural-born, God-given, inalienable right to defend your life, liberty, and property. It is your divine obligation to do so. And in service of that responsibility, it is not only that you have the right to keep and bear arms, which is not granted by the U.S. Constitution, but rather guaranteed to be protected against its revocation or infringement by the federal government, as in the federal government is required by the law to prevent itself from infringing or revoking that right. It is not only that you have that right that is protected in our most sacred legal documents, but as a man, you have the divine responsibility, a mandate from God himself. Right? Genesis. He who ever shed the blood of man, by man shall his blood be shed. You have a divine obligation to carry the most efficient means to arm yourself to the greatest extent you possibly can within reason, and to be prepared to defend your life, liberty, property, and yes, those less adequate. And for the purposes of this argument, I want you to think of your family as your property. Right? The wife, the kids, even mommy and daddy. Right? It in so much as you have the responsibility as a landowner, as an owner of a vehicle, to maintain and keep that property in good order and good working condition, and to keep that property in your possession. You have a similar obligation. Okay? Not to dehumanize the family, but your obligation is similar. You know, you got to feed them babies. You got to take care of that family. And when evil men come to threaten that family, just like any other property in your charge, God himself demands that you shed the blood needed to keep them safe. It's the reason we have canines, which are insufficient against other guns. So buy a gun, wear the damn thing, and keep people safe. Be a man and handle those responsibilities so that your rights, to which your rights, your naturally given rights, are as much your property as is your right hand. And you should raise that gun in defense anytime that hand or one of those rights is in threat of being cloven away. It's not complicated, guys. Arm yourselves, be prepared, be strong, and be safe. I want to do one more because I said I was going to try to get us out on a positive note. Here's I skimmed one of the headlines. I haven't read the story yet. That's the machete one. I think we actually did that one already. Shoot true multiple times at residence. This headline Good grief, I'm about to zoom into this even more. Okay. Let me scoot over to the right side of the screen here so you can see better. I'll go ahead and move the counter too. You know, it wouldn't break my heart none if if there were a little more, like, I don't know, standardization in the formatting, so it'd be easier to place these items on my monitor. But here we go. Go down one. Okay, fine. Y'all don't need to look at me while I'm reading this to you. Well, not that one. I'll just get out of the way. There we go. Now, let's read the story. Creole man shot by wife's boyfriend who was secretly living in their home, deputies say. I'm going to give this article, this is unprecedented. Never done it before. It's a third top comment. Ooh. Creole man shot by wife's boyfriend who was secretly living in their home, deputies say. Oh. On August 15th, 2021, at around 9 p.m., Mobile County Sheriff's Office responded to a shooting that occurred at a home on Skidmore Road in Creola. 2 men had been shot and both were being transported to a local hospital to treat their injuries. I mean, guys, that's a hell of a lot of story just in the headline. Shoo, buddy. And they look like Florida men, right? But this is Alabama. You know why all the trees in Georgia lean to the west? Because California sucks. Alabama's just in the way. The victim and homeowner Frank Reeves was shot in the chest by Michael Amacher, according to MCSO. MCSO states that Reeves then shot Amacher multiple times, striking him in the lower leg and elbow. During the investigation, detectives discovered that the homeowner's wife, Tracy Reeves, alerted her husband that an intruder was inside their home. It was later discovered that Tracy knew the intruder and had been having a relationship with him for over a year. Tracy was also allowing Amacher to live inside the home, providing him food and more. Frank Reeves had no knowledge of Amacher staying inside his home, according to MCSO. Currently, the charges of Amacher are attempted murder, possession of controlled substance, possession of firearm with altered serial number. Amacher is a convicted felon, and ICE charges are forthcoming. What? What? Ooh. Okay. Looks like that's all there is to the story. What? What? Ooh. Okay. I don't even know how to score that one. I mean, looks like nobody died. They both ended up in the hospital. I guess I'm going to go to BRM. Because neither of them could get a good shot off, but that whole convoluted story just... What? Okay, hold on. Is there a picture? Is there a picture of the house? Please tell me there's a picture of the house. Because okay, I'll grant it's a reasonably largish house, but like, does the boyfriend not have a car? I'm struggling here to understand how it is that a man who is, I mean, let's face it, this guy is the ultimate cuck, right? Wow. I mean, the ultimate cuckold. Upkeeping his wife's backdoor man without knowledge of it. And this wife, good God, baby, we would have some problems. We would have some words about this one. How in the world does a whole person live in your house? I've got a pretty big house, okay? And I've had buddies who were in trouble and needed a couch to crash on, right? You know, before we had so many kids that we ran out of bedrooms, you know, we had a guest room and put buddies up in there a couple times. But, you know, I can say this about every time I've had somebody who had to crash with me for a little bit. I knew they were in the house. This dude, I mean, how do you not know there's another person living in the house? Right? It's Patrick's asking the question, how did ice get involved? And like, I mean, maybe it's a bit of a conclusion to jump to, but they both look like white guys, right? I don't. Hell, let's watch this. Let's see if let's see if I can get the sound for it, and maybe they'll say something about how ICE got involved.
A shootout in Creola between a homeowner and someone he thought was a stranger in his house Sunday night. Well, it turns out that guy was no stranger to the homeowner's wife. According to sheriff's investigators, they say Michael Amaker was in a relationship with Tracy Reeves, the wife of Frank Reeves. She had been secretly hiding Amaker in the house.
Nope. I had no idea how ICE got involved in that, but that is freaking hilarious. And I honestly hope they all suffer for a long time in their stupidity and misery, because that's just I mean, that's methed up right there, man. That's you'll notice none of these boys are showing us any teeth in their pictures, right? I mean, that's methed up. You'll notice neither of them is showing us any teeth. That's methed up. There's some drugs involved, and we know there were drugs involved. They mentioned it in the article. So that's the high note, is we get to laugh at the absolute psychopathy of this particular story. Patrick just tuned in. According to another article on this, the woman was high on meth at the time of the shooting. I could have. Yep. I think I already said that. I just assumed, right? It's not mentioned in this article. I just assumed that this was methed up. So, all right, it's Friday. Going into the weekend, here's your safety brief. Y'all be safe out there, right? Take care of yourselves. Look out for your loved ones. Think before you do something. Don't drive drunk. Don't fry bacon naked. Sex, drugs, rock and roll, farm animals, and videotape. No two at the same time. And I'm going to have to include firearms in that mix as well. As much as I insist that you go armed wherever you go, obviously fire and booze don't mix within my visible public professional issued advice. So, best of luck out there, and we will see you Tuesday, because I won't be around Monday morning. Y'all be safe. Thanks for watching. Biscuits and Gravy just commented that those two guys look alike. I got to tell you, Biscuits, as soon as I pulled up the article, my first thought was, are they father and son, or like brothers? You know what though? There's meth. It's Alabama. They probably share the same toothbrush, and it's probably a toothbrush because they don't look like they've got a teeth between them. So, yep, y'all be safe. Good night.